everybody. Thank you for joining us. I'm going to introduce this beautiful lady right here. And this is my boo. This is my girl. This is Deanna. She is all the way out here from Houston, Texas, y'all. Houston, Texas. And I asked her to come do a couple of shows because we need everybody's point of view. Always. And so I love bringing guests on and have guests of the month. And this is our guest for the month. So get used to this face for the next 2 or 3 shows. She's going to be with us. Tell them about yourself, boo.
What's up, y'all? So, like she said, I came up here from Houston. I'm originally from Chicago. So if you are watching and you are from Chicago, whoop whoop, Chi-town. But yeah, right now I'm in Houston. I have 2 lovely kids running my business. I was so excited to connect with Kiana via LinkedIn.
And LinkedIn worked, y'all.
Man,
I've made some great connections on LinkedIn.
It's been like magic. Like, we literally talk almost every day. Okay,
this is like my sister now.
Yes.
For real.
So if you're on LinkedIn, side plug, you need to be networking because you don't know who you're gonna meet, who's gonna impact your life, and who's gonna support you.
And you have to actually meet the people. That's top tip.
No, right? Because what was it like? After like a week, it was like, I'm coming down to LA.
She's like, I'm coming down, I'm doing some shows. I was like, go do some shows with me. She's like, okay. Yep. Boom, she's here. Yep. It's been less than a month and she's here. Okay?
Yes. Dang, for real?
Yeah.
Dang, it felt like it's been longer than
we
that.
Talk every
That's
day.
what we talk every day.
We talk every day.
We do yoga.
Every day. And she is such a big supporter of the Life Matters Project.
Yeah.
And so today we are actually going to be talking about, well, tell them what you do.
Oh, yeah. So, okay. Yeah, selling is so not my strong suit, but thank you so much for reminding me. So what I do for my business is I do like career development workshops and I help professionals with their career transition. So that involves the job search process, which is very, very overwhelming and stressful to people. And so I really help to take away some of those stressors for people or just to help them get prepared depending on what level of service they need. And I also provide workshops around career transition and how to really market yourself as a professional when you're trying to enter the workforce, like out of college or even out of high school. Yeah, that's me.
I'm sorry, getting today just a little bit. Okay, so that's what she does. And I have a question. So my question for her is, how do you think, and I'm going completely off topic, but I'm fine. We'll stick with it. We're rolling with this is authentic, okay? How do you feel life matters in your workspace, in what it is that you do? Why do you think that it's important to love yourself first in the field that you're in? Where do you see the lack? Okay. And how do you think it can be implemented?
So with the workspace, with the work that I do, so dealing with people transitioning from whatever role they're currently in or not having a job to actually having one, it's such a delicate space because you have the instance where you have necessities, right? So sometimes
it's like your bills.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. You have people to take care of, yourself, your bills, whatever it may be. And so sometimes a lot of people take a role that they know is going to put a strain on them mentally in terms of just like
overexerting themselves,
and it makes them depressed, it makes them stressed, and that affects their health. But because they need the job, because they need the money, and they have all these priorities, I have to be very, very careful because it's easy in their eyes. It's easy for someone who is where they want to be because they look at it as I'm where I want to be, even though I'm not where I want to be. But they look at it as you're where you want.
Where I want to be either. No Donnell Jones. He didn't even know where he wanted to be.
Facts. Let me come back. But no, they think that I'm where I want to be, which I'm not. But because that's how they view me, it's like, okay, it's easy for you to say not to compromise.
For this position.
Exactly.
Because you work here and you have this. But I have this and that going on. And this, you never know somebody else's story. We say that all the time.
And I've had roles where I didn't like where I was at. Like, yes, I was doing HR stuff, but I didn't like where I was at. Or I didn't, the workspace is not always the work. Sometimes it's the people. People stay with bosses that are stressful. It stresses them out. They have anxiety. I know someone that has anxiety when they go to work, when they have to deal with a certain supervisor. Like,
I've heard of that.
The mental strain is crazy.
It's insane. And so do you think that with them taking on a position that they know is not good for them, do you think they're doing that? To me, that's lack of self-care, which still is, you're not applying self-love. If you're purposely doing something or taking something that's going to stress you out and it's not going to be good for your health, but how is that the balance? How do you wiggle in self-care, taking care of your business, balance? I mean, you're taking on a job that you know is not good for you. You're taking on additional responsibilities for a check. Do they stay? Is it something temporary? Is it a quick fix? Because you're destroying yourself, mentally and emotionally and with the health, which means you are also no good for kids or your family at home, because you took something that is horrible for you. Now you're no good when you go home.
But see,
people do that all the time.
What they would refute is, okay, yes, I know that this job is stressful, but I got to make it happen for if I don't do this, my family doesn't eat. It's not as easy as, let me just apply for X, Y, and Z job and they're going to call me back and hire me. There's so many flaws, I'll say, with how the HR process works and the recruiting process works with hiring people and people moving through the job search process. And so because of that, people they feel like they don't have time to wait. And in many instances, they don't. I get it. You don't have time to wait 3 months to hear back from a job. Maybe. And so it's so hard to navigate. And so some of the conversations that I have with my coaching clients, or even if I do a free workshop, is if you are in a space where you have to be at a job, but the job stresses you out, how do you capitalize in that role to set yourself up for the next role? You can't control what's out of your control. You can't do nothing about that. Your boss is an a-hole. Your boss is, always picking on you, whatever. All you can do is shift your mind or your way of thinking, not your mind per se, but your mindset. And it's, okay, yes, I'm in this job and this may not be a direct correlation to where I want to go, but how can I use what I'm doing now or this space that I'm in
your season
to develop myself professionally, to set myself up to get out of this situation? And that's where the disconnect is a lot of times with the people that I work with. It's I hate this job, I don't like it, and I don't see how it projects me into the next role. But it's okay, well, have you considered this? Have you considered that? Have you considered doing this? It's not going to always be somebody affording you a professional development opportunity. Sometimes you have to create it or find it, outsource
your opportunities sometimes. And one of the things that I think too is,
and that's where the self-love comes in. Loving yourself first, because you have to care about your next move enough to not depend on your supervisor or the people at your job to give you the pathway to get there. You have to invest in yourself first, or other people won't. And I explained that to them.
That's a good one. Invest in yourself, because nobody is going to invest in you like anybody, like you. Nobody. You have to want it for yourself. I always say that when it comes to a job and taking on internships and taking on roles that you feel like is not your dream job, or it's not your, the career that you want, but it's the season that you're in. And bills need to be paid. And even though you love yourself first, love does not pay the rent.
Exactly.
Love don't pay no rent, y'all. Love don't pay no rent.
Don't put food on the table.
Don't put food on the table. No, it doesn't. And so I always looked at things like, I took on a lot of internships. Like I took my first internship was with ESPN.
Oh, that was an internship.
I started out as an intern. I actually got hired on, and I climbed the ladder. And I took on roles. I kind of learned a little bit about everybody's role.
Yeah.
From editing to copywriter, before becoming a journalist. And one of the things that I learned is that, okay, so while I'm in this role, I'm going to learn how to do these things so that I can help other people when they're overwhelmed. You don't know when you're taking on jobs, and it may not be something that you want. You don't know if God put you there to be a blessing for somebody else. Yeah. You are making money. Your needs are being met, but you are there to serve. It's still a service. And we are here in this world to be a blessing to other people and other people to be a blessing to us. And
very true.
Yeah, and learning certain things and taking on a role, you don't know who you're going to meet. You never know who you're going to meet at a job or at an event or anything that you do. So never feel like you can't humble yourself down. Look, let me tell you something. Jesus washed feet.
Oh, yeah.
You know what I mean? Jesus washed feet. And back in the day, they was in the dirt and they just had sandals. And they didn't have no pedicure service.
But that's true, though.
He washed feet. If Jesus can wash some feet, I can take a role that I feel like is not necessarily as important to what it is that I want to do and go in there and say, okay, Lord, how am I to maneuver in this space? Yes. How am I to serve in this space? What can I learn from this space? What can the people around me teach me so that I can take these lessons into the career that I want? Yeah. Because you never know. I'm telling you now, I didn't know I was going to be CEO of the Pretty to Me Foundation. I took a role as an editor and copywriter. I didn't think that I would be writing all the content for my website, editing everything, writing everything for the teleprompter that I use. I learned all that stuff interning at ESPN, and now I'm using it now. You never know what you're going to learn that you may need later.
Exactly.
Right? So if you have to change your perspective so that you don't go into a level of depression from like you're unworthy, not necessarily unworthy, that's the wrong word. You're deserving of more. Being humble is to me a great act of kindness towards yourself, because when you get arrogant, it's a disservice. And it's an ugly characteristic to have.
People don't like to be around arrogant people either. I'm just gonna keep it real. Don't nobody want to be around somebody.
And I can tell you, stay humble, because you don't know what your next trial or tribulation is going to be. You don't know what your next battle is going to be. God may strip everything from you to humble you, to work in those positions so that he can prepare you to be at the top. Or bring you back down from the top, back down to the bottom, so that you can be a blessing to others and eat some humble pie while you're down there.
Ooh, because everything literally can be gone like that. And you know what? I'm glad you mentioned how what you learned when you were working at ESPN, like with the teleprompters and things like that, how those were things you were able to apply as CEO for Pretty to Me.
Right. I even took those over to NBC Universal. Yes. When I worked for E.
I hadn't even connected this dot when I started doing the curriculum development. When I first moved to Houston, I did not want that job, but it was like I needed something. Like we had just moved out there, so it was like, all right, fine, whatever. You know, this is not really the space I wanted to be in. This is not how I wanted to apply my HR skills. But now, literally, as you were saying, I was like, had I not did that, I wouldn't have been developing workshops.
See.
Had I not did it, I wouldn't have been developing workshops to facilitate. So it was like, that's where I was able to really tighten and hone in on that skill. Because I did it a little bit before I moved to Houston.
Yeah.
But when I got to Houston, like that was all I did. So I was able to refine that skill set and apply it to my business. So
I agree.
There you go.
So we got completely off topic, and that's fine. So what?
When you
we'll
said
do it
we're
for
gonna
the
go
next
off
show.
topic, I was like,
we're gonna do it for the next show. That's okay. We're going to the topic for the next show. But for this one, I will say the takeaway is it's okay to take on a position that might not be your dream job or your career job, to remain humble. Make sure that you're taking roles that allows you to be your best self, but not necessarily stress you out to the degree where you can't act in character. You have to act outside your natural character, which means attitude and funky because you're in a bad mood, because now you're stressed, now you can't think straight, and you don't have any time for you. Balance, humility, and priorities. And it's just a season, and seasons change. So when you're in that season, try to change your perspective and look for the blessing. And that's it.
And the lessons you can learn that you can take with you to the next role. And it's not easy. We're not saying it's easy. I'm not saying it's easy. Like, by no means. It is not something. When I was doing the curriculum development, like, I went a whole year miserable. Like, just complaining. Complaining.
It's a lot of work, y'all. If y'all not into the writing, a full-on curriculum for the Pretty to Me Foundation is 16-week curriculum that I wrote. That's a lot of work.
It's a lot of work, and it's for a department within a district, and so
it's a bomb.
Thank you, Will. Thank you. But I that's probably the hardest part of what I do is when I get people that's kind of in that season of they don't like what they do, they don't see the way out, and they've been in it for so long. And I get it, you get stressed, you get overwhelmed, and you kind of start to lose hope to a certain degree. And it's easier said than done to shift a mindset. But I think that's where also having the right people around you to keep you encouraged and focused, because that first year, like, all I did was complain. I have a background in HR, and let me tell you, the whole year I was looking for my next job. And guess what? Nothing opened up. And little to my surprise, or little did I know, at the time, it was like I needed to be in that space for what I was going to set myself up for and what God was going to help set me up for later down the line, like 3-4 years later. Because then it was like I had this idea of, let me do what I do for this district independently and apply all of that. And then that evolved into doing workshops. And can you create and develop a workshop for our college students and for our high school? And it was like, oh yeah, sure can.
That's a setup for a come up. Okay, you don't know how God is going to work.
Yep. Had I left, I wouldn't have had this.
I say the same thing. So, all right, y'all gonna have to stay in tune for our next show for the real topic.